Hey everybody, it's SoCalMike with RetroGamingRoundup.com and GameGavel.com. This video goes hand in hand with my editorial that is running this month on Retro Gaming Roundup's September podcast, where I discuss the Game Room and kind of what the Game Room has meant to me over the years. I know I said in my editorial that as I was growing up, my family always had a room in the house dedicated to playing games. And, when I was little, back in the 70s and, early 80s, this room typically had a closet full of board games. We did have a small television in that room as well, so we could sit and kind of watch TV on a smaller television than what was kind of in our main living room area. And while watching TV, we could all play board games or whatnot. Now, in the mid-70s, we got our first Pong machine, and that was hooked up to the smaller TV. It might have even been a black and white TV. In this game room. So this game room, which at least before video games came into play, was basically for playing board games and whatnot. I think we even had some game room carpet. If you remember this back in the day, you'd actually buy the carpet the room with it, and then there was like a bag full of chess pieces and checker pieces and stuff like that, so you could actually play these games on the carpet. So we had that carpet as well. And but we got a Pong machine, and all of a sudden started playing Pong in there. And then we got an Atari, and then the Atari went in there. And so there was always, like I said, a room dedicated in the house dedicated to playing games. And I think today, for a lot of people that collect games and that have current generation video game systems, at this point though, they're probably on your big screen TVs in your living rooms or whatever, on your really nice televisions, because of course they look much better on the big TVs nowadays. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys my game room and kind of show you what I talked about when I did the taping of the editorial. So I'm going to pick up the camera here, and we're just going to take a quick scan of my room. Now, my room is my basement, which is downstairs from our condo. It's not really a basement, although that's what we call it. It's really our garage. So I don't have a lot of room in here, as you can imagine. I think this is probably around the same size as maybe a bedroom. It may be a little skinnier than a game room, but it might be a little longer than a bedroom. I mean, but you can see in my game room, I've got a combination of arcade games. I've got computers that I grew up with, the Apple IIc and the Commodore 64. Been building up my Commodore 64 cartridge collection over here. I've got maybe, let's see, 10, maybe around 20 or so cartridges. I've got, tons of discs. And as you can see, it's all plugged in and ready to play, which is one of my key points in my editorial for you guys that have game rooms. Is, at least for me, I enjoy my collection much more when I have everything, for the most part, accessible. So that means I can play, actually anything that you see in here in a moment's notice, without, having to unpackage or unbox something and whatnot. Let me get rid of this phone call here. So, of course, we all decorate our walls with, movie posters and different things. Here's some photographs of me with some video gaming gods. Got the laser projector that shoots, these green, laser stars all over the ceiling. My Pac-Man Fever album, some blacklight posters, kind of a color disco ball up there with my blacklight. Another poster over there with the clock. And then along the edges of my game room, I have, my arcade games. And it's hard for me in my room, unlike some of you that maybe don't have the arcade games. You might have shelves or bookcases along your walls where a lot of you guys store your complete in-box games and whatnot. So that's really impressive. I don't have the luxury of being able to do that because I've made a choice to have, arcade games along the walls of my garage. Up here, you'll see this really cool, It's Hard, the Who album. Which on the album cover you'll see a young child playing Atari's arcade game Space Duel. I thought that was pretty cool. I picked that up at a swap meet. So my challenge is always kind of figuring out how to display, all these different types of things that I find at the swap meets or flea markets and thrift stores and whatnot. So my light went out in the back there. I'm going to open up my garage and get that light back on. So anyway, continuing on, you know, I've got my arcade games here. Now, I've only got one outlet in the back there, and I've got our washing machine plugged into one of them, along with a power strip that is connected along the back of the wall to this power strip over here. And this strip, for the most part, I can, you know, plug in, you know, my Apple IIc. I might have to unplug my Commodore, because the Commodore takes up, you know, a monitor plug, to like 3, maybe even 4 plugs, because I've got behind the games here, I've got a switch box that you can't see. So there might be like 4 plugs associated just with the Commodore. So I might have to unplug that in order to plug in my Apple II. But the bottom line is it just takes me a minute, and it's all accessible. Same with my arcade games. You know, I could probably figure out a way to run another extension cord from there to the back down here, so I could have R-Type and this new cocktail table that I just picked up a couple of weeks ago, this Carnival cocktail that is super nice. Right now I've just got my pachinko machine kind of sitting back there in the corner, but it's a really kick-ass old school pachinko machine. I've got my stereo up here. This is something I just picked up at the swap meets. It kind of sort of works. The radio works fine, but the record player needs a little bit of help, so I've been trying to find, actually I found a guy down the road that fixes old record players, so I've just been meaning to pull that in and take that into him. I picked up these really cool little bench seats at Target. I think these are like 15 bucks, but they're actually really solid. They look like they're flimsy, but they're really solid, they're really comfortable, and I'm storing my albums, you know, inside there, and I think, you know, you can store other, you know, video game stuff, you know, in them as well. Now, continuing around to the back of my garage, this is the TV that I've told you guys about that I was real fortunate enough to find this. Somebody out in our condo complex just had this thing sitting out behind their garage with a sign on it that said, "Take it, it's free." So, of course, I took this thing with basically to do what I'm doing with it right now. I was really impressed with this TV because it's got one video in here. It's got 3 video ins. There's 2 on the back and 1 in the front. And then there's also 2 antennas, the old school, you know, threaded antennas, which, you know, I've got my Atari and everything plugged in. So what I've got over here is my JAG. It's kind of hard to see. And then back in here, I've got, again, it's kind of hard to see, but I've got all my Super NES games and N64 games, probably about 20 to 30 games for each of those systems. I've got this cool kind of swivel case that holds, looks like around 30 to 40 Atari games on each, you know, on each side. I've got my DVD player to play my 80s videos down here. You can't really see it, but under here I've got my my Atari 2600, my N64, a Super NES, and then on the right side back down there, kind of buried in there, there's a Sega Saturn down there. So I've basically got 5 or so systems all pretty much hooked up to this TV, so I can again play them at a moment's notice. Now I might have to unplug one system to plug in the other one, but essentially they're all there and playable. I've got this blue case down here, which is just full of kind of rarer, harder to find Atari 2600 games. And then actually down under here, under all of this crap that's all going to go to the SC3 raffle here on Saturday, so all of this is going to be moved out of here. I'll actually have another space for another arcade game here when this is gone. But underneath here, I do have a box full of complete in-box Atari 2600 games. It's a pretty rare one, so there's probably about 40 or 50 of them in there, including, I think, a pretty much complete Activision box collection, which is awesome. My box Vectrix, there's probably about 15 or 20 games in there, almost all of the games for it with overlays, so that's pretty cool. You know, I got to store things on top of my arcade cabinets, so you can kind of see just some miscellaneous crates and stuff. Super nice Atari 2600 box. This thing's like brand new. Just some miscellaneous stuff up here on my main cabinet. And then my desk. This is where I'll sit and record the Retro Gaming Roundup podcast. Kind of have a small bookcase up there with a variety of things. The digital press collector's guides, some books, some old electronic games magazines, and Gameroom magazines, and some books, and whatnot. If we continue down here, I've kind of got my case full of all my handheld games, all my Mattel Electronics games, Tomy Pocket games, all sorts of stuff in there. And then my one cabinet. So this is kind of where I keep a lot of the stuff, from my personal collection. This thing is, let's see if I can get the light down there. This thing is really got lots of stuff in it. As you can see, I thought maybe we could go through some of this stuff. Now, I'm not real proud of how I have this organized. I mean, it's got this big behemoth up here, my Sega Genesis, Sega CD with the Sega Master System converter. The only thing I don't have on top of there is the 32X. I've got, what else do I have? Oh, my Sega Saturn is up here, I guess, not plugged in to the TV, but I got a real nice Sega Saturn in there. Lots of different controllers. The second level, just a bunch of, ColecoVision games. I've got a really super nice box ColecoVision under there. I've got a bunch of Sega Master System games in this crate here. Digging back in here is my Dreamcast library with my Dreamcast system. Some more games and books. My Lynx, my PS1 with my little LCD color screen attached to it. Got a couple of these Atari, binders down here. This was part of a Craigslist score. I ended up picking up about, I think an Atari 7800 and about 40 Atari 2600 games for like 30, 40 bucks. And this was one of the games that came in it. So that was a pretty awesome score. Come down here and just got a lot of cool stuff. Kind of old school joysticks. This old Pro Stick 2. Pretty hard to find Atari 2600 compatible joystick. Boxed Burger Time. Just some miscellaneous stuff that you'll see down here. And if we dig even deeper back here, there's sometimes I dig in here, guys, and I see stuff that I totally forgot I even had. It's just wild. It's just crazy. One of my favorite Genesis games, Zoom, pretty awesome game. Wipeout, Viewpoint for the PS1. Beyond Oasis. So here I've got a lot of my boxed Genesis games. There's a stack here, and all along the back, there's probably about 40 or 50 boxed Genesis games. That's, some pretty cool stuff. Some pretty cool stuff back there. I wanted to see, I thought I had a pretty, well, let's dig in here and see what we can find, guys. I think there's some cool stuff. That was a big bag of Hot Wheels. Let's just dig back here a little bit. Oh yeah, shit, I totally forgot I found this at the swaps for $5 not too long ago, this Lupin, Tomy Lupin game. You'll see back here one of these really cool big Atari arcade sticks. Pretty awesome stuff. Just seeing what else we got back there. So there you can kind of see, if I get out of the light, some of the Sega Genesis games and stuff kind of hanging out back there. Got some Jaguar games in here. I got my Timex Sinclair computer back in here. This stuff's basically accessible. If I wanted to play this stuff, it wouldn't be that big a deal to take that brick of a Sega Genesis out and, hook it up to the TV and play it. Same with the Dreamcast or the ColecoVision or whatnot. So anyway, that's kind of a look at my game room. I'd love for you guys to go in the forums and, post pictures of your game rooms, your arcades, no matter how big or how small they are. We all might be able to learn a little bit about how you've got your game room just set up and how you display your items or protect your items, stuff like that. So get in the forums and let us all know. And hope you guys are enjoying the September podcast.